The boxes weren't just packed. They were dumped lined across the driveway like garbage waiting for pickup. Claire Bennett stepped out of her car and froze. Oops. Her clothes, her files. Even the framed certificate she had earned years ago face down in the dirt, and standing in the doorway of the house she had quietly paid for stood her husband, Ethan Walker, with another woman wearing Claire's silk robe. "You don't live here anymore," Ethan said flatly. Claire didn't argue. She didn't cry. Because the man throwing her out had no idea he was standing inside a house and worked for a company she owned. Welcome to today's story. If you enjoy emotional drama and shocking twists, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And before we begin, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. 3 hours earlier, Claire still believed her marriage could be saved. Now she stood at the edge of the driveway, keys still in her hand, staring at the life she had built scattered like it meant nothing. A blouse she had ironed that morning lay half-folded in the grass. A stack of files from her consulting work was bent at the corners. One of her heels had rolled near the curb as if it had tried to escape and failed. The front door was wide open. Ethan leaned against the frame like he had been waiting for her. Calm, annoyed, not guilty. Behind him, Lena stepped forward slowly, adjusting the silk robe around her waist. Claire recognized it immediately. She had bought it for herself last year. It had felt like a small reward at the time. Something personal. Something now it wasn't. Claire's eyes moved from the robe to Lena's face, then back to Ethan. No one spoke for a moment. "Nice of you to finally show up," Ethan said, checking his watch like she had kept him waiting. "I figured it'd be easier this way." "Easier," Claire repeated quietly. He gestured toward the boxes. "Your stuff's there. Take what you need today. We can figure out the rest later." "We." He said it like she was still part of the conversation. Claire stepped forward slowly. The gravel shifted under her shoes. Every sound felt louder than it should have. "How long?" she asked. Ethan exhaled, already irritated. "Does it matter?" Claire didn't look away. "It does to me." Lena let out a soft laugh, low and careless. "He told you, it is over. Why drag it out?" Ethan didn't correct her, didn't defend Claire, didn't even react. That told Claire everything. 2 years, he said finally, on and off. 2 years. Claire felt the number settle in her chest, not like a shock, more like something heavy finding its place. 2 years of dinners, of conversations, of pretending everything was fine. 2 years of him coming home to her after being somewhere else. "Okay," she said. Ethan blinked. He had expected something else. Anger. Tears. A scene. "Okay," repeated. "I'll get my things." Claire walked past him. He didn't move to stop her. Inside, the house looked almost the same, except it didn't feel like hers anymore. Lena's purse sat on the kitchen counter, a glass of wine half finished beside it. One of Claire's candles was burning something she always lit in the evenings. It smelled like someone else's life. Claire moved with quiet precision. She picked up what mattered. Documents. Her laptop. A small jewelry case. Not everything. Just what she needed. Her hands didn't shake. That surprised her more than anything. On the living room table, Ethan's phone buzzed. A notification lit up the screen. She didn't mean to look, but she did. Subject line: Internal Review Executive Approval Pending. The sender name was familiar. Corporate level. Not something Ethan usually dealt with directly. Claire's gaze lingered for half a second longer than necessary. Then she looked away. Outside, Ethan leaned against the door again as she carried another box to her car. "You don't have to make this harder than it is," he said. "I think we both know this wasn't working." Claire set the box down carefully in the trunk. "This wasn't working," she repeated. "Yeah, I mean," he shrugged. "You've been stuck. Same routine, same everything. I want more than that, more." Claire closed the trunk. "You should have said that before," she said. "I am saying it now, with her behind you?" Lena smirked. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Don't start, Claire. I'm trying to keep this civil." Civil, Claire almost smiled. She looked past him, at the house, the windows, the door she had chosen, the space she had arranged, paid for, protected. Legally, it was hers, every inch of it. He didn't know that, not because she had hidden it carelessly, because he had never asked, never looked deeper, never needed. "You should go," Ethan said, his tone sharper now. "I don't want this turning into something messy." Claire met his eyes. For a moment, something flickered there. Not regret? Not guilt, just impatience. She nodded once. Us, right. No argument. No fight. She got into her car and started the engine. Ethan watched her like he had already moved on. Lena stepped closer to him, slipping her arm around his waist. Claire didn't look back. As she drove away, her phone buzzed through the car's Bluetooth system. Unknown contact. Then the name appeared. Board office. She stared at it for a second. The call rang once. Twice. 3 times. Claire pressed decline. Her grip tightened on the steering wheel just slightly. Not yet, she murmured, and kept driving. Claire didn't drive far. She didn't need to. 10 minutes later, she pulled into a quiet underground garage beneath a mid-rise building downtown. It wasn't flashy. No valet, no marble entrance. Just concrete, security cameras, and a coded gate that opened the moment her license plate registered. She parked, turned off the engine, and sat there for a second. The silence hit differently now. Not empty. Clear. Her phone lit up again on the console. The same contact. Board office. This time, she answered. Claire, a calm male voice, said immediately. No hesitation. No greeting needed. We've been trying to reach you. I saw, she replied, her voice steady. We're moving into final review for the restructuring proposal. Your approval is required before it goes to execution. Claire closed her eyes briefly, leaning her head back against the seat. Timing. Of course it was timing. Send me the updated file, she said. It's already in your secure inbox. A pause. And Claire. The voice added, quieter now. There's been an internal concern flagged. It involves someone in the operations division. We thought you should be aware before the board meets. Her eyes opened. What kind of concern? Potential policy violations. HR is compiling details. We'll have more by morning. Claire didn't respond right away. Operations division. That was where Ethan worked. Understood, she said finally. Hold everything until I review it, of course. The call ended. Claire sat still for another second, then reached for her phone. A few taps. A secure app opened. No company logo, no public access. Just a clean interface and a list of files. She scrolled, found the one she needed. Restructuring proposal final authorization. She didn't open it yet. Instead, she exited the app and locked her phone, one step at a time. She stepped out of the car and took the elevator up. The apartment upstairs was small compared to the house. 1 bedroom. Clean. Minimal. Already prepared, not by chance. Claire had set it up months ago, not because she expected to be thrown out, because she understood patterns. Ethan had been changing long before today, the late nights, the dismissive tone. The way he stopped asking about her work, then started mocking it. You're still doing those small consulting gigs? He had said once, barely looking at her. You should think bigger. He had no idea how much bigger she already was. Claire walked inside and placed her bag on the kitchen counter. The space felt quiet but not unfamiliar, like a place she had been visiting in her mind for a while. She opened her laptop. Within seconds, the secure network loaded. Emails, reports, internal messages. She didn't skim. She read. The restructuring file outlined everything. Department changes, budget relocations, personnel adjustments. Names moved around like pieces on a board. She noticed one immediately. Ethan Walker. Position flagged, not terminated. Not yet, but under review. Claire's gaze lingered on the line. Then she scrolled further. Another name appeared. Lena Brooks. Different department, also flagged. Claire leaned back slowly, so it had already reached this level. Not just personal. Corporate. She clicked into the HR summary file attached below. Access required additional authorization. She hesitated for half a second, then approved it. The file opened. Dates, access logs, expense reports, internal communications, clear patterns. Workplace meetings that didn't match official schedules. Travel reimbursements tied to the same locations. Late-night system logins under shared credentials. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't even careful. Claire's jaw tightened, but her expression didn't change. This wasn't just betrayal. This was negligence. The kind that cost companies millions. She closed the file. Sat still. Let the information settle. Downstairs, her car cooled in the garage. Across the city, Ethan was probably still standing in that doorway, convinced he had taken control of his life. Convinced he had finally stepped into something bigger. Claire exhaled slowly. He hadn't. He had stepped into a system he didn't understand, and broken rules he didn't even know existed. Her phone buzzed again. A message this time. From hope you got out okay. Ethan said you were making it difficult. Claire stared at the screen. Lena. Of course. Another message followed almost immediately. You should've seen it coming. He's not the type to stay stuck. Claire typed nothing, didn't block the number either. She placed the phone face down on the table, silence again. But this time, it wasn't empty. It was controlled. She stood up, walked to the window, and looked out over the city. Lights stretched in every direction. Offices still open, deals still moving, decisions still being made. Her world, still hers. Claire reached into her bag and pulled out a thin folder. The edges were worn slightly, but the contents inside were untouched. Property documents, ownership records. Her name was there, clear, undisputed, not hidden illegally, just structured through layers that Ethan had never bothered to understand. She placed the folder on the table next to her laptop. For a moment, her hand rested on it. Then she pulled back. Not yet. Her laptop screen dimmed slightly. A new notification appeared in the corner. Internal message urgent. From Chief Legal Officer. Claire clicked it open. We recommend immediate initiation of formal investigation into the flagployeurs. Evidence meets threshold for policy breach. Awaiting executive approval to proceed. Claire read the message twice. Then once more. Her cursor hovered over the response field. This was the line. Personal and professional had already crossed. Now they were about to collide. She thought of the driveway, the boxes, the robe. The way Ethan had said, "You don't live here anymore." Her fingers moved, short, precise, proceed. She hit send. The message disappeared. The system updated instantly. Status, investigation authorized. Claire closed her laptop. For the first time that day, her shoulders dropped slightly. Not relief, control. Her phone buzzed again. Another call. Unknown number, she answered. Ms. Bennett, a woman's voice said, professional and direct. This is Harper & Cole Legal. We've received a request regarding your marital property status. It appears your spouse has initiated preliminary steps toward asset division. Claire's expression didn't change. On what basis? She asked. They've declared joint ownership of the residence. Claire looked at the folder on the table, then back at the window. That's incorrect, she said calmly. We assumed as much. We'll need confirmation from your end before responding formally. Claire was quiet for a second. Then she said, I'll send it in the morning. Understood. The call ended. Claire placed the phone down slowly. Across the city, a process had just started. One he didn't understand, one he couldn't stop, and one that would force every assumption he had ever made into the light. Claire didn't sleep much, not because she was overwhelmed, because she was thinking. By morning, the apartment was quiet again. Clean still. Controlled. Nothing like the house she had left behind, where every corner now held something she had paid for but no longer touched. Her phone buzzed before she even made coffee. Richard Hale, she answered without hesitation. I saw your authorization, he said. No greeting, just business. HR has already started compiling the formal report. Legal wants to confirm whether you want full escalation or internal resolution. Claire walked to the window, watching early traffic build across the city. What's the risk exposure? She asked. Minimal if we handle it internally, significant if it leaks. There's enough documentation to justify termination, but if either of them challenges it, it could become public. Claire let that sit. Public. The word carried weight, but not fear. Keep it internal, she said. For now. A pause on the other end. For now, Richard repeated. Yes. I want everything documented properly. No shortcuts, no gaps. You're expecting this to go further. I'm expecting them to react, Claire replied calmly. And I want everything ready when they do. Richard exhaled lightly. He knew that tone, strategic, measured. Understood, he said. We'll proceed carefully. The call ended. Claire set the phone down and finally poured herself coffee. Black, no sugar. Sugar. She didn't rush, didn't check messages immediately. She gave herself 10 minutes to stand there, sip slowly, and breathe. 6 years, it didn't feel like a waste. Not entirely. It felt like a lesson she had refused to see until now. Her phone buzzed again. This time, Ethan. She stared at the name, let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then it stopped. A message came through seconds later. You need to come back. We need to talk about the house. Claire almost smiled. The house. Still his focus. Still his assumption. She typed nothing back. Instead, she opened her laptop again and logged into the internal system. The HR report had updated overnight. She clicked. Timeline expanded. More details. Meeting logs. Badge access. Shared calendar entries. Ethan and Lena weren't even trying to hide it anymore. Lunch meetings that overlapped. Late exits from the building logged within minutes of each other. Expense reimbursements tied to the same hotel on 2 separate business trips. Claire scrolled further. There it was. An internal message Lena had sent through a private channel. You said she wouldn't find out. Ethan's response came minutes later. She won't. She barely pays attention to anything. Claire's fingers stilled on the trackpad. Barely pays attention. For a second, something sharp pressed against her chest. Not anger, not even sadness, just clarity. She closed the file, not because she couldn't read more, because she didn't need to. She already knew enough. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Ethan. Don't ignore me, Claire. This affects both of us. Both of us. Claire picked up the phone, stared at the words, then placed it back down without replying. Instead, she opened another file. Property records, everything clean, everything clear. The house wasn't jointly owned. It never had been. Purchased through a holding entity. Fully paid. Her signature. Her authorization. No mortgage in Ethan's name. No shared title. Just an assumption he had never questioned. Claire leaned back slightly. That assumption was about to break, but not yet. She checked the time, 9:30. By now, Ethan would be at work. Walking into a building he believed supported him. A company he believed rewarded his performance. A system he believed he understood. Claire closed her laptop, picked up her phone, scrolled through contacts, then stopped at one. Patricia Cole, her attorney. She pressed call. Patricia answered on the second ring. I was expecting you, she said. Of course you were, Claire replied. You saw the inquiry from their side? I did. Patricia's tone shifted slightly. Sharper now. Focused. They're positioning for joint asset claims. It won't hold, but they'll push it if you don't respond quickly. Claire walked toward the table where the property folder still sat. I'll send you everything within the hour, she said. Title records, trust structure, purchase documentation. Good. That shuts down the house claim immediately. Claire nodded, even though Patricia couldn't see her. And the divorce? Patricia asked. Claire paused, just for a second. Then not yet, Claire. I know, she said quietly. I'm not delaying. I'm timing it. Patricia was silent for a moment. Then you want leverage. I want clarity, Claire corrected. Another pause. All right, Patricia said. But don't wait too long. The longer he thinks he has control, the harder he'll push. Claire glanced at her phone again. At Ethan's unread messages. He already thinks he has control, she said. The call ended. Claire finally sat down. Opened her laptop again. Attached the documents. Sent them to Patricia. One piece secured. One assumption removed. But everything else was still in motion. Her phone buzzed again, this time not Ethan. Unknown internal number, she answered. Ms. Bennett, a voice said. Formal, slightly tense. This is HR. We wanted to inform you that 2 employees have been scheduled for a compliance review meeting this morning at 10. Claire didn't respond immediately. She already knew who. We'll proceed according to policy, the voice continued, unless instructed otherwise. Claire looked at the time. 9:58. 2 minutes, she said. She ended the call, then stood up, walked back to the window. Across the city, in a glass building Ethan had walked into like any other day, everything was about to shift, and he still had no idea why. By the time Ethan walked into the office that morning, he was already irritated. Claire hadn't responded to any of his messages. Not a single one. No apology, no explanation, no attempt to fix things. Just silence. It felt deliberate. He pushed through the glass doors, badge swiping automatically, barely acknowledging the receptionist. His jaw was tight, his steps sharper than usual. Something about yesterday hadn't sat right with him, not the way Claire reacted. She didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't beg. She just left, like she had somewhere better to be. Ethan shook the thought off as he headed toward his floor. He didn't have time to overthink it. There were meetings, deadlines, real responsibilities, real work, unlike whatever Claire had been doing with her consulting projects. His phone buzzed. A message from Lena. Are you here yet? He smirked slightly, tension easing just a bit. Just got in, he typed back. Coffee later? Already waiting, she replied. That was better. Something normal, something that made sense. He stepped out of the elevator and walked toward his desk, nodding at a few coworkers. A couple of them avoided eye contact. One gave him a tight smile. Weird. He sat down, dropped his bag, and opened his laptop. Before he could even log in, his inbox flashed with a new notification. Subject: Compliance review, immediate attendance required, frowned. He clicked it open. This is to inform you that you are required to attend a compliance review meeting at 10 a.m. in conference room B. Attendance is mandatory. No context, no explanation. Just that. He checked the time, 9:57. Seriously? He muttered under his breath. His first instinct was irritation. Probably some routine audit, some box-checking exercise from corporate, the Lipwas. They loved those, still. He grabbed Sfwand and texted Lena, got pulled into some compliance thing. Might be late, a few seconds later, she replied. Same email. This is weird. Ethan paused. Same email? His eyes flicked back to his screen. Compliance review. Both of them. A small crease formed between his brows. Coincidence. It had to be. He stood up and headed toward the conference room. The hallway felt quieter than usual. More people glanced at him this time. Some quickly looked over when he noticed. Ethan's irritation sharpened into something else. Unease. He pushed the door open. Two people were already inside. HR director, both seated, both waiting. No laptops open, no small talk. Just a folder placed neatly on the table. Ethan stepped in, forcing a casual tone. Morning. What's this about? The HR director didn't smile. Please have a seat, Ethan. That tone. Not frown, not routine. Ethan sat down slowly. The legal representative slid the folder slightly forward. Before we begin, she said, this meeting is being documented as part of a formal compliance review. You are expected to answer questions truthfully. Ethan blinked. Okay, but what exactly is this about? The HR director opened the folder. Your conduct over the past 24 months. Ethan felt something in his chest tighten. What conduct? The pages turned. Printed logs, emails, calendar entries, expense reports, each one laid out carefully, methodically. Can you explain your repeated off-site meetings with Miss Lena Brooks during work hours that were not logged as official business activities? The HR director asked. Ethan stared at the papers. His first instinct was denial. Those were just informal check-ins. Team coordination off-site, the legal rep cut in. At locations billed to the company under travel expense? Ethan's mouth opened, then closed. They kept going. Badge logs, access times, hotel receipts, every detail, laid out, not accusing, just present, undeniable. Ethan leaned back in his chair, trying to steady himself. This is ridiculous, he said, forcing a laugh. People grab lunch. People collaborate outside the office. That's not a violation. The HR director's gaze didn't shift. Were you in a personal relationship with Ms. Brooks during this time? Ethan froze. There it was, direct, clear. No way around it. That's not relevant to my performance, he said, slower now. It is relevant, the legal rep replied calmly, when that relationship intersects with company policy, misuse of resources, and failure to disclose conflicts of interest. Ethan felt heat rise in his face. This feels like a setup, he snapped. Why is this happening now? No one answered that. The HR director simply slid another page forward. A signed document. His signature at the bottom. Company ethics policy. Clause highlighted. Employees must disclose personal relationships that may create a conflict of interest or involve misuse of company resources. Ethan stared at his own name, his own signature. His chest tightened further. This is overblown, he said, but his voice had lost its edge. The legal rep folded her hands. We've completed our internal review. Based on the evidence, you are in violation of multiple company policies. Ethan's stomach dropped. So what? A warning? Suspension? The HR director didn't hesitate. Termination. Effective immediately. The word hit harder than anything else. Ethan blinked. What? Your employment is terminated as of today. You will receive formal documentation and final compensation details by end of day. No, Ethan said quickly, shaking his head. No, that's not. This is insane. I've been one of your top performers. My numbers, your performance does not override policy violations, the legal rep said. Ethan pushed back his chair slightly. This is personal, he said, louder now. Someone's targeting me. Still no reaction, no denial, no confirmation. Just silence, controlled professional final. A knock on the door. Ethan turned, security, standing just outside. His chest tightened even more. "You're escorting me out?" he asked, disbelief creeping into his voice. The HR director nodded. "You'll be given time to collect personal items. Access to company systems will be revoked immediately." Ethan stood up slowly. His mind raced. This didn't make sense. It couldn't. Something was off. Something bigger. "This isn't over," he said, more to himself than to them. No one responded. He walked out of the room, security falling into step behind him. The hallway felt different now. Colder. People were definitely watching this time. Whispers started as soon as he passed. He grabbed his things quickly, barely looking at anyone, and headed toward the elevator. His phone buzzed. "Lena, did you get fired?" Ethan stopped. His grip tightened around the phone. "They're calling it policy violations," she texted again. "This is insane. Someone's behind this." Ethan's jaw clenched. Someone's behind this. The words echoed in his head. The house. Claire's silence. The timing. He stepped into the elevator, heart pounding now. Something connected. He didn't know how. Not fully. But it was there, waiting. And for the first time since yesterday, Ethan started to feel it. Not control, not confidence, but the beginning of something slipping away, something he didn't understand yet. And that was worse than anything else. Ethan didn't go home right away. He sat in his car in the company parking lot, staring at nothing, the engine off, the silence, pressing in, fired. The word didn't settle. It didn't make sense. Not to him. He had numbers, results. Performance reviews that praised him. Promotions that came faster than anyone else in his division. People like him didn't get fired over something like this. Not without warning. Not without a conversation first. Unless... His grip tightened around the steering wheel. Unless someone wanted him out. His phone buzzed again. "Lena, they fired me too." Ethan exhaled sharply, a humorless laugh slipping out. "Of course they did," he muttered. Under his breath, he opened the message. "This isn't random. Someone reported us. This is targeted." Ethan leaned back in his seat, eyes narrowing. Targeted. The word clicked into place in his mind, because that was exactly what it felt like. Not an odd, not routine. A hit clean, fast, irreversible. He typed back, "Meet me at the house." 3 dots appeared almost instantly. "On my way." Ethan tossed the phone onto the passenger seat and finally started the engine. The drive felt different now. Same streets, same traffic, but something underneath it had shifted, like he had stepped out of something stable and into something uncertain without realizing when it happened. By the time he pulled into the driveway, Lena was already there, sitting on the front steps, waiting. The same steps where Claire's boxes had been scattered just yesterday. The image flickered in his mind again, her face, calm, too calm. He pushed the thought away and got out of the car. What the hell is going on? Lena stood up immediately, arms crossed, tension sharp in her posture. They terminated me. No warning, no escalation, just done. Same, Ethan said. Compliance violations, that's ridiculous, she snapped. Everyone bends rules. No one gets fired like that unless someone wants them gone. Ethan nodded slowly. Exactly. He walked past her toward the front door, unlocking it out of habit. Inside, the house felt different, quieter, emptier. Claire's presence, whatever it had been, was gone. And for the first time, Ethan noticed it, not emotionally, structurally. Kitchen felt untouched. The kitchen felt not living room, staged, like a place maintained. Not lived in. He shook it off and dropped his keys onto the counter. We need to figure out who did this, Lena said, pacing now. This could follow us. References, background checks, we could be blacklisted. Ethan frowned. Blacklisted? No, that wasn't happening. I'll talk to someone, he said. There has to be an explanation. Lena stopped pacing. Who? HR just kicked us out like we were nothing. Legal was in the room. This went through corporate. Corporate. The word lingered. Ethan walked over to the counter and picked up his phone. He scrolled through contacts, managers, supervisors. Nothing felt right. Too low level. Too disconnected. If this was corporate, then someone higher up had signed off. His jaw tightened. Someone approved this, he said. And I want to know who. Lena let out a short, frustrated laugh. Good luck. That company's structure is a nightmare. Half the decisions come from some invisible top layer nobody ever sees. Ethan paused. Invisible. Top layer. Something about that phrase made something in his chest shift slightly. He ignored it. Instead, he opened his email. Still accessible. For now. He searched for the termination notice. Opened it again. Formal language. Legal phrasing. Final. Then his eyes caught something he hadn't noticed earlier. A line at the bottom. Approved by executive oversight. No name. No signature. Just that. Executive oversight. Ethan frowned. That wasn't new. He'd seen it before, on promotions, on budget approvals, on strategic changes. Always the same label. Always faceless. He had never questioned it. Why would he? Decisions came from above. That's how companies worked. But now it felt different. He clicked into older emails, pulled up his promotion notice from 2 years ago. There it was again, approved by executive oversight. Another one, performance review. Same line. His chest tightened slightly. Every major step in his career, all tied to that same invisible approval. Lena's voice cut through his thoughts. What are you doing? Ethan didn't look up, looking for patterns. In what? In who's behind this? He clicked through more documents. Contracts, policy acknowledgments, corporate memos. Every time something significant happened, that same line appeared, executive oversight. No face, no name, no identity, just authority. Ethan leaned back slowly. Whoever this is, he said, quieter now. They've been making decisions about my career for years. Lena stared at him. That's how corporate works. No, Ethan said, shaking his head. Not like this. Not without visibility. Not without leadership being known. A small silence fell between them. Then Lena spoke again, slower this time. You think this same person is the one who got us fired? Ethan didn't answer immediately. Because for the first time, it didn't feel like a theory. It felt like a direction. His phone buzzed. He looked down. Unknown number, he answered. Mr. Walker, a professional female voice said, this is Capital Trust Services. We're calling regarding the property at your residence. Ethan frowned. What about it? We've issued a formal notice of occupancy termination. You should have received documentation earlier today. Ethan froze. What are you talking about? That's my house. There was a brief pause. Then, calmly, the property is owned by a private holding entity. Your occupancy was permitted under a non-ownership arrangement. Ethan felt the air shift around him. That's not possible, he said sharply. We bought that house. Our records show the property was purchased outright 4 years ago by the holding entity. There is no mortgage under your name. Ethan's grip on the phone tightened. That's wrong. It is not. You have 30 days to vacate the property. Further instructions will be included in the formal notice. The call ended. Silence, heavy. Lena stared at him. What did they say? Ethan didn't answer right away. His mind was racing now. House, Job, corporate, everything shifting at once. They said, his voice slowed, uncertain now. They said, this isn't our house. Lena's face went pale. What? Ethan looked around the room again, really looked this time. The furniture, the finishes, the details. Things he had always taken for granted. Things he had never questioned, because he believed they were his. His phone buzzed again, a new email. He opened it. Subject property ownership documentation attached. One file. Ethan's hand hovered for a second. Then he tapped it open. The document loaded slowly, legal formatting. Official seals, ownership records. And at the top, a name, not his, not Lena's, Claire Bennett. Ethan's breath caught, just for a second. Because something inside him, something he hadn't wanted to consider, was starting to take shape. And it didn't make sense. Not yet, but it was getting closer. Ethan stared at the name on the document until the letters began to blur. Claire Bennett. It didn't make sense. It couldn't. He looked up slowly, as if the walls of the house might answer him. This is wrong, he said, more to himself than to Lena. Lena stepped closer, grabbing the phone from his hand. Her eyes scanned the document quickly, then slowed. Her expression shifted from confusion to something sharper. This says she's the owner, she said quietly. Ethan shook his head. No. No, this has to be some kind of error. Maybe it's not. Lena cut in. Look at the entity structure. She pointed to the section below. A holding company. A trust. Claire's name tied to it. Not as a spouse. As the primary beneficiary. Ethan felt something in his chest drop. That house wasn't in his name, never had been. and suddenly, small things began to surface, moments he had ignored the closing process. He hadn't been there for most of it. Claire had handled it. He remembered signing something, briefly, without reading carefully, because why would he? He had trusted the process. Trusted her, his jaw tightened. She never said anything, he muttered. Lena let out a short breath. Why would she? She said. You told her she didn't contribute. The words hit harder than he expected. Because they were true. Ethan looked away. The room felt tighter now, different. Not his, not really. His eyes moved across the space again. The couch, the kitchen island, the art on the wall. Everything he had claimed, everything he had built his identity around. And none of it was his. A slow, creeping realization began to settle. Not just about the house, about everything. His phone buzzed again. Another notification. Banking alert. He opened it. Account access restricted. He frowned. What now? He tapped into the app. Error. He tried. Another account. Same message. His breathing slowed, controlled, but tighter. This doesn't make sense, he said. These are my accounts. Lena stepped closer. Are they? She asked carefully. Ethan looked at her. What is that supposed to mean? I mean, have you actually checked ownership before? She pressed. Or did you just assume everything was set up under your name? He didn't answer. Because he didn't know, and that was the problem. He had assumed. About everything. His phone buzzed again. Another email. Subject. Account review notice. He opened it. Formal language. Legal tone. Certain accounts linked to a shared financial structure were under review due to a change in authorized access. His name was still there. But something else had changed. Primary authorization. Removed. Ethan swallowed. What is happening? Lena whispered. He didn't respond. Because he was starting to see the pattern. Not clearly. Not fully. But enough to feel it. Like something beneath this house, his finances. All tied together. All connected. And somehow, all slipping out of his control at the same time. That company. Lena said slowly, thinking out loud now, the one that fired us. Ethan looked at her. What about it? You said everything important gets approved by that executive layer, the one no one sees. He nodded. So, he asked. Lena hesitated, then said it anyway. What if this isn't separate? Ethan stared at her. What are you saying? I'm saying, she exhaled, choosing her words carefully, also owns more than just the company. The idea landed, and for a moment, Ethan almost dismissed it, because it sounded too big, too unlikely. But then the house, the accounts, the approvals, all of it tied to invisible authority. His chest tightened again. No, he said quietly. That's not possible. But his voice lacked conviction. Because deep down, something didn't feel impossible anymore. Just hidden. His phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't an email. It was a notification from a financial service. Vehicle lease status update. Ethan frowned and opened it. Termination notice. His car, leased under a corporate benefits structure, access unrevoked, effective immediately. He went still. Then slowly, he looked up at Lena. They're taking everything, he said. Lena didn't respond. Because she was starting to understand it too. Not fully. But enough. This isn't random, she said. This is coordinated. Ethan nodded. Yes, piece by piece. Clean, precise. Like someone had mapped his entire life. And exactly where to apply pressure. His gaze drifted back to the document still open on his phone. Claire Bennett. Her name sat there, quiet, unassuming, the same way she had always been. He thought about her again, standing in the driveway, looking at her things thrown out like trash, and not reacting, not fighting, not even asking him to reconsider, just watching, as if she already knew something he didn't. A cold realization brushed against the edge of his thoughts. He pushed it away immediately. No. Claire wasn't like that. She wasn't powerful. She wasn't connected. She wasn't. His phone buzzed again. A message this time. Unknown sender. He opened it. One line. Board meeting confirmed. Final approvals pending. Ethan stared at the message. Board meeting. Final approvals. His stomach tightened, because suddenly it didn't feel like coincidence anymore. It felt like timing, like something bigger was moving forward, and he was no longer part of it. He looked at Lena. What if this is all connected? He said quietly. Lena didn't answer right away. Then finally she said, then whoever's behind it is about to make their final move. Ethan looked back at the screen, at the message, at the words that suddenly carried more weight than they should have. Final approvals pending. He didn't know who was making them. He didn't know what they would decide. But for the first time, he felt like he was standing outside his own life, watching someone else take control of it. The article didn't look important at first. It was just another business headline. Buried halfway down the finance section, Ethan had opened out of habit. Something about a corporate restructuring, a quiet acquisition. The kind of thing he used to skim through without thinking, but then his eyes caught a name. Not bolded, not highlighted. Just there. Claire Bennett. He froze. For a second, he thought it had to be someone else. It was a common enough name. It didn't mean anything, except the context didn't match that idea. He leaned closer, scrolling up slowly, his pulse starting to shift in a way he didn't like. The article was about the company, his company. Or at least, the company he used to believe he worked for. It mentioned an internal shakeup, executive restructuring, a change in ownership's visibility after years of operating through layered entities. His throat tightened, because that part matched what Lena had said. About invisible authority, about someone above everyone else. His eyes moved down again. And there it was, a single line. The majority stakeholder, previously undisclosed, has now been formally identified as Claire Bennett, who has maintained controlling interest through a private holding structure for several years. Ethan stopped breathing. The words didn't process all at once. They landed in pieces. Majority stakeholder, undisclosed, controlling interest, Claire Bennett. No. That. He read it again. Slower this time. Every word deliberate, every word impossible. His hands tightened around the phone. That's not. He started, but the sentence died before it could finish. Lena was already moving closer. What is it? She asked. He didn't answer. He just turned the screen toward her. She read it, once. Then again. And this time her reaction was different. No denial, no immediate dismissal. Just a long, quiet stare. That's her, shook his head immediately. No. It's not. It can't be. Ethan, Lena said, her voice steady now. Everything we've seen lines up. He backed up a step. No. She was a consultant. She barely made anything. She let you believe that, Lena interrupted. The room felt smaller again, too quiet, too clear. Ethan looked back at the article, more details now. Timeline. Years, the same years they had been married, the same years he had been building his career, climbing, struggling, fighting for recognition. While the company itself had already been controlled by someone else, someone he had gone home to every night. He felt something twist in his chest. Not just shock. Something heavier. She never said anything, he whispered. Lena didn't respond right away, because the answer was obvious and uncomfortable. Ethan's mind started pulling pieces together. The approvals, the invisible executive layer, the decisions that never made sense, the sudden termination, the speed, the precision, and Claire, sitting in silence, watching, understanding everything he didn't. His stomach turned. No, he said again, quieter this time. If that were true, she would have what? Lena asked. He stopped, because he didn't have an answer. What would she have done? Told him? Proved it? Saved him? Or just watched? The memory hit him harder than anything else. The driveway. Her everything he had thrown out, not angry, not desperate, just still. Like someone who already knew how it would end. Ethan swallowed. She knew. He said. Lena's eyes flickered. Knew what? Everything, he replied. She knew about you, about us, about the house. The job. The realization spread fast now, unavoidable. She let it happen, he added. But even as he said it, something in him resisted the implication. Because it wasn't that simple. It didn't feel like control. It felt like distance. Like she had already stepped away before he ever noticed. His grip on the phone tightened. He scrolled further down the article. There was more. A section about leadership. A brief mention of internal restructuring already underway. Policies being enforced. Ethics violations addressed. Ethan's jaw clenched. That wasn't random, that was him. And Lena. Everything lined up too cleanly, too intentionally. This wasn't damage control. This was correction, and it had come from the top. From her, he exhaled slowly. She fired us, he said. Lena didn't argue, because there was nothing left to argue. The silence stretched, thick, heavy. Then Ethan did something he hadn't done yet. He searched her name, Claire Bennett. This time, not casually. He searched properly. The results came back instantly, and this time, they didn't come back empty. Profiles, articles, mentions tied to corporate filings, images, professional photos, not many, but enough to confirm it. The same face, the same woman, but different. Composed, recognized, powerful in a way he had never allowed himself to see. His chest tightened. "How did I not know this?" he whispered. Lena didn't answer, because the answer was already there. He hadn't looked. He hadn't needed to. He had already decided who she was, and once he made that decision, he stopped seeing anything else. Ethan dropped into the chair by him, staring at the screen. Everything he thought he understood about his life was wrong. The house wasn't his, the company wasn't his. Even his position inside it had been conditional, given, not earned the way he believed, and taken away just as easily. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to steady himself. "This doesn't make sense," he said again, but now it sounded hollow. Lena crossed her arms. "It makes perfect sense," she said. "You just didn't see it." He didn't respond, because she was right, and that was worse than anything else. Another notification came through, this time, not an email, not a bank alert, a calendar update. Ethan frowned and opened it. He didn't remember scheduling anything, but it was there, a meeting. Location, corporate headquarters. Time, tomorrow morning. Title, executive review session. His name was listed, not as an attendee, as a subject. His stomach dropped. "What is it?" Lena asked. He turned the screen toward her again. She read it, and for the first time since everything started, she looked uncertain. "They want you there," she said. Ethan nodded slowly. "Yes," he replied, but his voice had changed, because now he understood something he hadn't before. This wasn't a meeting. It was a confrontation, and this time, he wasn't walking in as someone in control. He was walking in as someone who had been seen the entire time, by the one person he had refused to see at all. The building didn't look different. That was the first thing Ethan noticed. Glass, steel, clean lines. The same corporate headquarters he had walked into for years without hesitation. The same lobby he had crossed with quiet confidence, believing he belonged there. Now every step felt measured, watched. He adjusted his jacket as he walked through the revolving doors, his reflection briefly catching in the glass. For a moment he didn't recognize the man staring back. Inside, the receptionist looked up. Her expression shifted the second she saw him. Not warm, not welcoming, professional, distant. "Good morning," she said. "You're expected." Ethan nodded once, trying to hold on to whatever control he had left. "I know." She didn't ask for ID, didn't question him, just pressed a button and signaled toward the elevators. "Executive floor," she said. That word again. Executive. It used to mean something he was working toward. Now it felt like something he had been kept away from. The elevator ride was quiet. Too quiet. He stood alone, watching the numbers climb, his mind replaying everything from the past 24 hours. The article, the documents, the calls. The realization that every part of his life had been structured around something he didn't understand, or someone. The doors opened. The executive floor looked different, less crowded, more controlled. People moved with purpose here. Conversations were quieter, eyes sharper. And when Ethan stepped out, a few of those eyes lingered, not with recognition, with awareness. He felt it immediately. They knew something, or at least they knew more than he did. A woman in a dark suit approached him. Mid-40s, calm, precise, "Mr. Walker," she said. "This way." No smile, no introduction, just direction. Ethan followed, down a hallway he had never walked before, past doors he had never been invited to open. Each step made it clearer. He had never been part of this level. Not really. They stopped in front of a conference room. Large glass walls, long table, screens already lit. Inside, several people were seated. Executives, board members, people whose decisions shaped the company. Ethan recognized a few faces. They had never spoken to him directly before. Now, they were all looking at him. The woman opened the door. "Please," she said. Ethan stepped inside. The door closed behind him. And just like that, there was no space left to pretend. "Have a seat," one of the men said. Ethan remained standing for a second longer than necessary, then sat. The chair felt colder than it should have. Silence settled over the room, heavy, measured. Then another man spoke. You're probably wondering why you're here. Ethan let out a slow breath. I have a few ideas, he replied. No one smiled. The man nodded slightly. Good, he said. That saves time. A folder was placed in front of Ethan. He didn't touch it. Not yet. Your employment has already been terminated, the man continued. That part is clear. Ethan nodded once. Yes. But this meeting isn't about your termination, the man added. That got his attention. Ethan looked up. The man leaned back slightly. Accountability, he said. The word hung in the air. Sharp. Direct. Another person across the table spoke. Your conduct violated multiple internal policies, she said. Not just professional. Ethical. Ethan felt his jaw tighten. I understand that. He said, but I don't see why that requires it, she cut in, because your actions didn't happen in isolation. Ethan frowned. What does that mean? A pause. Then the first man spoke again. It means your actions affected more than your role, he said. They intersected with ownership interests. Ethan's chest tightened. Ownership, that word again. You're going to have to be more specific, Ethan said, trying to keep his voice steady. Another pause, longer this time. Then the door behind him opened. Ethan turned instinctively, and everything inside him stopped. Claire stepped into the room, not rushed, not hesitant. Calm, composed. She wasn't dressed the way he was used to seeing her. No soft fabrics, no quiet simplicity. Her presence filled the room in a way that made everything else feel smaller, and the reaction around the table made it worse. Because the moment she walked in, everyone stood, not halfway, not showily, fully, respectfully. Ethan felt something in his chest drop. Hard. Claire didn't look at him immediately. She acknowledged the room first. A small nod. Controlled. Then she took her seat, at the head of the table. Ethan's vision narrowed. No, he said under his breath, but no one corrected it. No one laughed. No one questioned her position. Because to them, it wasn't surprising. It was expected. Claire finally looked at him, not with anger, not with satisfaction. Just clarity. The kind that came from seeing something exactly as it was. You received the notice, she said. Her voice was steady, professional. Different. Ethan stared at her. You're... He started, but the words wouldn't form. Claire didn't help him. She let him struggle, let him sit in the realization. I think it's important, she continued, that we address what happened, properly. Ethan shook his head slowly. This isn't real, he said. You're not, I am, she replied. Simple, final, no emotion behind it, just truth. The room stayed silent because there was nothing left to debate. Ethan's mind raced, trying to catch up. The house, the accounts, the article. And now this, Claire at the head of the table, as if she had always been there. How long? He asked finally. His voice cracked slightly. Claire held his gaze. Long enough, she said. That answer didn't help. It made it worse. Because it confirmed what he was starting to understand. She had always been ahead of him, always in control, even when he thought he was the one making decisions. Ethan leaned back slowly, his body feeling heavier than before. You let me do all of this, he said. Not an accusation, not fully. Just confusion. Claire didn't react right away. Then she said, you made your choices. The simplicity of it hit harder than any anger could have, because it removed any excuse, any justification. Ethan looked around the room, at the people who had watched this unfold from a distance, at the structure he had never questioned, at the reality he had never seen, and for the first time, he understood exactly how small his perspective had been. Claire closed the folder in front of her. Let's proceed, she said. And just like that, the meeting began, not as a discussion, not as a negotiation, but as something final. And Ethan realized he wasn't here to explain himself. He was here to face everything he had chosen, without ever knowing who he was choosing against. The divorce was finalized without a courtroom. No spectacle, no drawn-out fight, just paperwork, signatures, and a quiet end to something that had already broken long before anyone admitted it. Claire sat across from her attorney, reviewing the final documents one last time. Everything was clean, no disputes, no contested assets. The structure had already been clear before Ethan ever realized it existed. The house was never his, my accounts were never Sunday. Even the lifestyle he thought he had built had been supported, something his once understood. She signed her name calmly, not as an act of victory, but as closure. Across the city, Ethan walked out of a different office with a very different outcome. No job, no title, no credibility left to fall back on. Word had spread quickly, not loudly, but efficiently. The kind of quiet circulation that mattered more than headlines. HR violations, ethical breaches, termination backed by executive review. No one said her name out loud, but it didn't matter. People knew where the decision came from, and more importantly, they knew why. Ethan had tried to explain himself at first, tried to salvage something. A connection, a reference, a second chance, but every conversation ended the same way. Polite distance, careful wording, closed doors, because in that world, reputation wasn't just about what you did, it was about who stood behind you, and now, no one did. He sat alone in a small apartment weeks later, scrolling through listings he couldn't afford, job openings he wasn't qualified for anymore, and articles he wished he had never read. Claire's name appeared more often now, not hidden, not quiet, clear, recognized. A face that matched the authority people had always felt but never seen. Interviews, panels, corporate announcements. She didn't speak about him, not once. She didn't need to. The story had already told itself. Back in her office, Claire stood by the window overlooking the city. The same skyline she had spent years watching from a distance, choosing silence over recognition. Now, nothing was hidden. Her name was on the documents. Her presence was acknowledged. Her authority no longer questioned. But the feeling wasn't what most people would expect. There was no rush of triumph. No sense of revenge fulfilled. Just stillness. A quiet space presence where something heavy had finally been set down. Her assistant knocked lightly. "Your next meeting is ready," she said. Claire nodded. "I'll be there in a minute." The door closed again. Claire stayed where she was for a moment longer. She thought about the driveway, the boxes, the way her life had been thrown out like it meant nothing, and how she had stood there, not because she was powerless, but because she had already outgrown the need to prove anything. That was the part Ethan never understood. It was never about money, never about control. It was about respect, and once that was gone, there was nothing left to protect. She turned away from the window, walked back to her desk, and picked up the next file. Life didn't stop. It moved forward, without the weight she had carried for too long, without the need to explain herself to someone who had already decided who she was. Weeks later, Ethan passed by the building again, not inside, just across the street. He looked up at the glass tower, the same one he used to enter without hesitation. Now it felt distant, untouchable. For a moment he thought about going inside, saying something, asking for a meeting, but he didn't move, because for the first time, he understood something clearly. It wasn't the company he lost. It wasn't the house. It wasn't the status. It was her. The person who had stood beside him quietly, who had given without needing recognition for who Shunsers, and he had never done that. Not once. He exhaled slowly, then turned away and kept walking, not chased, not stopped. Just left behind. Inside the building, Claire stepped into her next meeting with calm precision, her voice steady, her decisions clear, no hesitation, no doubt. She wasn't hiding anymore, but she wasn't proving anything either. She was simply being who she had always been, and that was enough. If you've ever seen someone for less than they truly were, or been seen that way yourself, share your thoughts below. And if this story stayed with you, there are more waiting to be told.